process. Can the people on Zoom hear me?
Loud and clear.
I can hear you.
Thank you. Okay, Okay, it is 4 o'clock. I will call the City of Port Atkinson Plan Commission meeting to order. This is an in-person and remote hybrid meeting. It is Tuesday, September 28th, 2021 at 4 p.m. And so roll call, please.
Commissioner Becker,
Here.
Commissioner Highfield,
Here.
Commissioner Kesenick, here, Commissioner Lesko here,
Here.
Commissioner Schultz,
Here.
Manager Lemire,
Here.
Engineer Selly.
Here.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is review and possible action relating to the minutes of the September 14, 2021 regular Plan Commission meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second,
Got a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Good, motion carries. Next on the agenda is review and possible recommendation to the City Council relating to the preliminary certified survey map extraterritorial zoning for the Merriman property, North 1917 South Main Street, CSM 2021-06.
Yeah, thank you. So the information that was provided in the packets is looking at this particular parcel here to the south of the city. So to orient yourself, Rockwell Avenue is up in the upper portion of the screen here, and we have this peninsula of sorts that comes in. The red line is the town city boundary. The area that we're looking at specifically is here along South Main Street. This is the Merriman's property. It's roughly 10 acres, the entire rectangle that's shown there. And the Merriman family would like to split roughly along a north-south line here, the existing home and barn that are on that for sale. This is immediately adjacent, obviously, to the city boundary in this area. And the city is certainly concerned about this large parcel with respect to the development of that parcel being hopefully residential as our comprehensive plan shows. So we've been in contact with the Merrimans for probably close to 6 months to a year timeframe, talking about the larger parcel. This CSM has come forward as they've found a buyer for the barn and the house, but the buyer is not interested in purchasing the entirety of the property. There were 2 requests that the city made of the Merrimans with respect to approval of the CSM. The first was to provide the option for a road on the south end of this property that would provide the option, if necessary, to get back into the larger, what is roughly an 8-acre parcel after the split. There are a number of dead-end roads coming into this parcel already. So this was planned out quite some time ago for residential development, but the actual form of that residential development is really going to be dictated by whomever purchases it and what the economic conditions are, frankly, at the time. So the request for the option for a road down there to the south, I think was not in the best interest of the Merrimans at this time, nor I think of the potential buyers. The second request that the city had was to clear up the right of way within the area. And this is where things have become enlightening, I suppose, on a number of angles here recently. Bear with me, I want to bring up the CSM because that's where we can kind of see this a little bit better. I must have opened the agenda only here, perhaps. Well, we'll go back to the county right of way here. We'll see it. So the CSM that we're looking at is essentially taking this black line here. This is right of way. This right of way it's not the same as our city right of way. This right of way is a legacy right of way, if you will. So in sometime in the early part of this last century, the state of Wisconsin was having a number of issues with these old boundaries and said the minimum right of way for all roads is going to be 60 feet. And so regardless of whether you owned to the entire center line of the road or not, whatever public improvements lie within that 60 feet were allowed to exist and allowed to be maintained by whatever governing body was in place at the time. So the town of Koshkonong has the right to come in and to maintain South Main Street, the asphalt, the curb and gutter through this short section. The right of way that is there, or perhaps the easement that is there, does not allow for public improvements to be expanded. So what is there is there. It is allowed to be there by the state statute. The problem with that is that when this parcel is broken off, the landowners, whomever they may be, current or many years into the future, have the ability to stop any improvements or expansion of those improvements in the right of way, because the current understanding, or the current, I guess, law from the state allows simply for that road to exist where it is. So when we see these come through on the city side of things, we want that right of way to be dedicated, much as the rest of the city is, to the public. Ideally, this would be dedicated to the city, but as the Merriman's lawyer, Mr. Fleming, pointed out, the city cannot request the dedication of right of way. Only the town may do that because it's within the town's boundary. So the issue that we have with this particular situation is not immediate. The breaking off of this parcel, the sale of the parcel to private owners, really from the city's standpoint, is not of significant concern. We would really like to have that potential road to the south in there, but at the same time, there are 2 or 3 other areas where access to this parcel could be made. However, the right of way does have some concern for us. We've run across this in other parts of the city where we have kind of inholdings of the town, and we don't have a method to do improvements. I can give you an example on Wilson Avenue that we paved just a few years ago. And we were unable to extend improvements through that section because there was no right of way dedicated to the town, just simply the right of way that we have here today. So the city obviously has plans for South Main Street. This particular parcel here, again, is one of the few remaining that is still in the town. I have no doubt that the town would be happy to allow any improvements through this corridor. The city maintains South Main Street. We don't leave this little section out. We plow it, we crack fill it, we do all the maintenance work that's required. In fact, we have sanitary sewer within this particular corridor through here that is shown as right of way, but we have no easement necessarily in there for that. So the ideal situation is that this is in fact dedicated as right of way. It appears that the town is the governing body that needs to request that the city cannot. So you'll note that within the memo that I had written, I had said that we would approve this CSM under the condition that the right of way is dedicated. I think we should clarify that the right of way is dedicated to the town, or requested to be dedicated by the town, as that appears to be the correct legal way to do so. Whether the town will honor that or move forward with that, I don't think we can offer any kind of thoughts about that. It certainly is a up to the town. And in fact, I believe they've already considered this and approved it. I'm not sure if it's in final form or in a draft form. So the recommendation that I'm making now to the Planning Commission could just simply be, essentially just a narrative, but really not command any sort of sway with the town of Koshkonong. So are there any questions about that? I've tried to be as succinct as I can in this situation.
I'm not sure where to begin with questions, but so the property, the new property boundary would essentially be sort of in line with the two parcels directly to the north and the south of the property that faces South Main Street?
That is correct.
Okay.
And my apologies, I can't pull that CSM up at the moment, but there's a copy of it in your packet.
Mhm. Yeah. And that is in fact what the potential buyer has the accepted offer on.
That is my understanding. It was, yeah.
But that wouldn't, it would still be within the town of Koshkonong boundaries.
Correct.
I don't know. I guess, given the information at hand, I guess this feels fairly straightforward. It's being requested by the current owner. I'm not seeing any reason to deny approval on this unless I'm just completely missing something.
I should note, we cannot actually deny these extraterritorial zoning CSMs. We have 60 days to review them. We can approve them sooner, which is what we're doing here. But after 60 days, they become automatically approved.
Understood.
The only thing that would change that is the development of an official map or a boundary agreement with the town, both of which we're in the process of creating, but won't be available for at least a year, I would say.
Got it.
So it seems to me that the approval really needs to come from the town.
It does, yeah. And I think it's good. I mean, obviously, we have a number of players in the room here with respect to this parcel. So I think it's good to be able to kind of summarize our perspective with respect to that right of way, and perhaps it might lead to some discussions later on, after the transaction occurs. Mr. Fleming.
The town actually has already approved this PSM.
What was that? Can you repeat yourself, Ms. Rustrick?
The town has already approved this CSM.
Correct. And did they approve it subject to any conditions?
Not that I'm aware of. No, they approved it in that same form.
Mr. Fleming, if you come to the podium, we can get you, the folks at home can see too.
Right away.
Could you state your name? And
Sure.
address
Yeah.
for
My
the
name is
record,
Matt
please?
Fleming. I'm an attorney with Murphy Desmond.
Is that on? Is there a green button?
Yes, there is a green
Green
button. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think, well, to know exactly what the existing condition and the rights to expand the improvements and stuff on this right of way, I'm assuming a lot, but I've seen a lot of road right of way issues. In my practice, we continue to represent many municipalities, both towns and cities, and I've litigated a bunch of old rights of way cases. So what I would expect in this case is that somewhere when this road was initially created, it was probably created by a town highway order. And, the late 19th, early 20th century, there was a little bit of back and forth about minimum right-of-way requirements, but pretty early in the 20th century, the legislature was requiring a presumptive 66 feet. And so from that point on, if you have just like a center line described in a town highway order when one is opened, there should be a full 66 feet of right of way there. And you may very well, if you go look in the old town records, to find the original highway order that opened this, chances are there is an actual 66 feet of right of way there, which would allow, even without any additional dedication, expansion of any roadway or utilities within that right of way. So I think there may be issues, being scaring off our buyers at this stage to actually do the dedication to the public. And usually in my practice, that's when I advise municipalities and whenever there is any question as to what the width of the right of way is in an area, it's helpful to have that dedication because it does clearly establish it. But I don't know that it's accurate to say that there isn't 66 feet unless we have looked at the town highway order that opened this. And even when there's some ambiguity, there is a presumption that it's 66 feet that has to be rebutted. Now, again, there might be a lot of history along here that would suggest it is narrower. I mean, I do see that there are some parcels that seem to go in. I don't know what the significance or how those lines are drawn, but long and short of it is I think it's something that we might still go ahead and look at. If we're able to do it and with the timing, it's certainly not something that we would reject. But again, I appreciate that being taken out of the actual approval requirement. But I just wanted to kind of let you know that even if we go ahead and record this without actually having that dedicated to the public, I think it's worth taking a look at how that section of highway was actually open and created, because you may actually have the 66 feet. And then any other issues that you may have with it being within the town, I think can typically be dealt with a simple intergovernmental agreement. It's not perfect. It's not the same thing as bringing the city, but it certainly can bring you a lot more clarity in the interim until sometime in the future it does. So just wanted to provide a little bit more context for you. Thank you.
Quick question for you, if you would, Mr. Fleming. So the main concern that I have is one that you may have alleviated, and that is my understanding of that. I don't think there's any question that there's 66 feet there.
Yeah.
But what can be done there? So, for instance, the city of Fort Atkinson has looked at plans for narrowing Main Street to the south, or for expanding it, or for adding water main to that side or whatever. Any addition to those things, my understanding was that we needed the permission of the landowner to do those sorts of public improvements, because that right of way was not dedicated even to the town. The town may be on board, but the landowner could object because that right of way.
Well, you'll have to consult your own city attorney, but that's not my understanding. I mean, that's precisely why the legislature created a presumptive 66-foot minimum, because they understood that sometimes highways need to be, the surface width needs to be widened. I mean, most roads, the actual surface is quite a bit smaller than what the presumptive 66 feet are. Sometimes additional drainage needs to be put in there, other utilities. And so that's precisely why there's that presumptive width, even if the actual traveled surface has historically been less. So, again, I would consult with your city attorney, and if he has to do a little more research to back that up. But that's my understanding, is that unless you've got a road that was essentially created by user and had just historically continued to be used by the public and started to be maintained under those circumstances, sometimes those get to be pretty difficult cases, because you look at other things like, were there fence lines, were there old trees and things that would suggest that road wasn't intended to be 66 feet, and those can be kind of litigious. But I would not expect to find those kind of issues so close to the city of Fort Atkinson. Could be wrong, but just the tendencies of where I see those really odd cases where the presumption gets rebutted tend to be much more rural town roads. So,
Thank you.
yep.
Attorney Westrick, do you have any, anything to add?
I do not. I think we ought to accept it in the form that it's in.
Mr. Merriman, did you want to step to the podium and introduce yourself and
Hi all, Jim Merriman, I'm the representative for our family and we appreciate your time and effort here. Certainly, this is a interesting parcel for everybody. It's wooded, it's beautiful, nice place, and it's good to be able to convert the land and the property before things happen to it, vandalism, whatever. So we appreciate your looking at this. I would like to say the one thing is that the sale of this particular parcel or parcels really don't preclude any other alternatives in the future, development or otherwise. And so we just really haven't a lot of offers, tell you the truth. And we've reduced the price twice to make it more attractive to buyers. We finally have someone that wants to buy this. Out of 3 offers, we've accepted 1, and that's in a hot market. So it's really strange that we've had to, and we're gonna sell at a reduced price. So we appreciate if we can move this in a timely manner. Thank you for your time.
thank you. Any other questions or comments from the Plan Commission?
I'm not seeing anything else. I think this makes sense as presented, so I'm gonna go ahead and make the motion to recommend to the city council the preliminary certified survey map territorial zoning for the Merriman property and 1917 South Main Street as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second on the floor. Are there any other comments or questions from the Plan Commission? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next on the agenda is adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
I can second.
Okay, motion and second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned at 4:22 PM. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.